So we have made a stop off here at this Commando Memorial, and this is overlooking Ben Nevis. In fact, if I turn the camera around, Ben Nevis is just here in the clouds. So yeah, so this is the following day, by the way, because yesterday we went to Fort William to have a look, and to be honest, I didn't think there was really anything there worthwhile recording. We then went to look at the viaduct and kind of got there, and it was too late in terms of we couldn't get parking, so we went up the road and we ended up chasing the train, which was quite spectacular. Felt like we were a little bit out of one of those movies where they do a train chase and they got to jump on the roof or something like that. So we followed the train up the hillside for quite some time and videoed that as we went, and then yeah, we head back to where we're staying at the moment. And this morning we've come out here to this Commando Memorial. Now this memorial has been set up in name of the commandos, or remembrance of the commandos that were set up in the early, I think it was about 1940. Churchill actually set the commando unit up in response to having to evacuate Dunkirk. And they were an elite force for the British Army who would effectively go behind enemy lines, do lots of very tactical things, and yeah, and the training centre was not far from here. It was about 6 miles from here. So they used to catch the train to a place called Speen Bridge, and they would walk 7 miles to the training centre past this location. And yeah, this place here, this is their training ground. This is where the commandos would come and train. And you can see it's an awesome landscape. There is just mountains everywhere, woods everywhere. The train is perfect for training. So back in 1952, the Queen opened this memorial, and it's now gained the highest status it can gain as a memorial, as a statue, as a grade listed memorial, I guess, or statue. I don't know what you call it, but yeah, so effectively it's gained the most elite status it can. And I think it's great that they've immortalised it forever. And I think now we've got to that point where there isn't really anybody around anymore from World War II that fought in it. I think it's really important that we have places like this for us to remember those people that laid down their lives somewhere far from here, and even in modern times, you know, in conflicts overseas like Iraq and the Falkland Islands, again, the commandos were out there laying down their lives for the country. So what's the plan for today? Well, let's take you guys on a little road trip around Scotland. We'd like to make it up to Loch Ness. That would be quite nice. But we're going to do a little bit of a tour around and take in some of the scenery and views as we go around. So yeah, grab your coffee. Let's go on another adventure. So we've done a quick stop off on our way back to Loch Ness as I cross over the road, and this is the Roderick MacKenzie grave. So I believe this is a memorial to the grave. I believe the grave itself is over here, so we'll have a look in a second. There's a river down there, and I believe this guy is buried next to the river. So So Robert MacKenzie was the son of an Edinburgh watchmaker, but he was also part of Prince Charles, Bonnie Prince Charlie. He was part of his army. And he was always told that he had a real resemblance to Bonnie Prince Charlie. So just when they were hunting for Bonnie Prince Charlie after his defeat, MacKenzie was shot, and his dying breath was, "You've killed your prince." And so that threw confusion around, and they thought they'd actually killed Bonnie Prince Charlie. They chopped off his head, took it up to Edinburgh and London to be identified, and by the time they found out, it was too late and Bonnie Prince Charlie had made his escape. So it's a fascinating story about this guy who was a loyalist to the end, and even in his dying breath he protected his king effectively. So as you can see there, it says, at this spot in 1746 died Roderick MacKenzie, an officer in the army of Prince Charles Edward Stuart, of the same size and of the same resemblance to his royal prince. When surrounded and overpowered by the troops of the Duke of Cumberland, gallantly died in attempting to save his fugitive leader from further pursuit. Yeah, so that's where he died, and evidently his grave is down by the river. I don't think it's marked, but let's have a quick look. Into the woods we go, and here we have the river further on down. No idea if his grave is marked or not, but there's a nice seat down there. Right, we've made another stop off for Glenmoriston's footprints, which has got quite an interesting tale to it, but it's about 100 yards off the road. A little parking bay there. Couldn't find the gate at first, I'm not going to admit that, but I got a feeling it's just ahead of us here by these rocks. Here we go. Does this mean we've got to stand in the footprints? They're quite small compared to me.
Yeah?
Yeah.
He was a size 8.
So the story goes that in 1827, Finlay Munro, who was employed by basically a religious instructor for Scotland, was propagating Christian knowledge and stood here and preached a sermon in Gaelic to the passerbys. His words were generally well received, but a few men heckled him, interrupting his address. Munro is said to have solemnly declared that the ground on which he has stood would bear witness to the truth of what he said until the day of judgment. These two marks are said to be his footprints, where reputedly nothing will grow. And it's really weird because ever since 1827, which is, nearly 200 years ago, these footprints, nothing's ever grown. Although someone said someone stole them at one point, so I'm not quite sure how or what, but it is kind of weird that nothing ever grows here. And it is soil underneath, kind of mossy and roots. But yeah, I do love these kind of tales. Really weird and eerie. I do love all these little tales of, witchery and things going on, spells and fairies and all that kind of stuff. So I even bought a book on it recently, which I'll put a link down for you guys down in the description. But yeah, let me know what you think. Is this a true story? Are they his footprints? It's kind of eerie, isn't it? It's kind of weird that they're still there. So yeah, let me know in the comments what you think. Is it real? Is it just a made up story? Right, we have reached Invermoriston now. Just so we can have a quick look, because Invermoriston actually means river and waterfalls, I believe, or something along those lines. So there are supposedly waterfalls around here. We're going into a little woods now. Yeah, so see what we can find. So this is the old Invermoriston Bridge, and some steps down there, which I might go down in a minute, but this is where the upper falls are. I think it's just a viewpoint. Wow, look at that. Look at where the water's been carved out of those rocks. Beautiful. And if we go up over this old bridge, which used to be the old road, and we spin around, we can see where the water comes out the other side, and then we can actually see the new road bridge. So this is the bridge that runs you from all the way from where we were down in Fort William all the way up to Inverness past Loch Ness. So just down here past these waterfalls is Loch Ness. But I think what we want to do is head in the woods that way and go and find the other falls. And there she is in all her glory, one of 1,000 bridges built by Thomas Telford in the early 1800s. And that's where we're heading next. Summerhouse, woods, trees. Let's do this. Right, I think there's one thing that remains. We've got to find Nessie. Right, so we've got Loch Ness appearing on our left-hand side here. Absolutely massive lake. It's something like 20 odd miles long, and it's one of the biggest bodies of fresh water in the UK. And I believe it can fit all the rest of the water around England and Wales into the one lake. It's so deep. Certainly big enough for Nessie to hide in. So if you see Nessie down there, let me know in the comments. Put a timestamp to where you saw Nessie. Right, so we've come to Fort Augustus, which is right at the very end of Loch Ness. And we're also, right alongside me here, we got the Caledonian Canal. So the Caledonian Canal, I believe, links the loch at Fort William down to here, so you can actually travel all the way through from one side of Scotland to the other via a series of lochs, of which there's a few here, and then there's Neptune steps, which is up at the other end, and probably a few in between, no doubt. But yeah, so we couldn't see Nessie on the way through. To be fair, we couldn't see much on the way through because of the trees as we were traveling along. So we've come here to the end of the lake, see if Nessie is hiding out here. And if not, I've got suspicions somewhere else we can go and have a look. So just over here we can actually see what is the smallest lighthouse in the UK, and it's designed to allow boats to find their way into the Caledonian Canal. Let's wave to the people. Anybody wave? There we go. So I believe just behind over here we can see the Abbey, and this was built on the remains of Fort Augustus. So the original fort that was here, that was built way back to try and keep the Scottish in line. I think Nessie's looking a bit worse for wear. So we've come just a little bit further up the canal. As you can see, this swing bridge is also opening. We're fortunate to see the other one open, and it's letting more traffic through. So we've got 3 vehicles coming through here. But that's not the reason we came here. The reason is this way. So this is the Bridge of Oich. It's basically the old bridge that crossed over the river here. Maximum 50 persons allowed. I think I'll be okay. I think I'm all right. I don't think I'm that heavy. And there we see the new bridge. So before that was built, this would be the way across. Now it looks like it's just going into a nice bit of farmland. Well, the rain has set in. But we're here. We're at Neptune Staircase, which is the bottom end of the Caledonian Canal. I think that's correct because it's coming down the staircase here anyway. And then out that way onto the loch, and then out to sea, I guess, eventually. And I guess they'd have to swing that bridge as well. So don't think a boat would fit under there. So Neptune's staircase is the longest step lock in the UK, evidently. There's only 8 locks here, and I believe there's 29 in total along the length of the canal, and it can actually take up to 3 days to actually traverse through the canal, which is quite a while considering we've just driven from one end to the other. Now there is a cafe up there, but it looks closed, so I think it's time to sign off. Tomorrow we may or may not, we're not quite sure yet, have a go at being at the highest point in the UK, Ben Nevis. We'll see what the weather does, because at the moment it's dreary. There's something like 70-mile-an-hour gusts on the summit at the moment, but hopefully tomorrow it's a little bit less windy. Bit of sunshine and rain. We might even get a clear bit on the top. So yeah, we'll see what happens, and we'll see you here next time. Take care. Bye bye.